6.3 Numerical model. A lot of coaches use different ways to analyse their players, and one model they like to use is a numerical model. The numerical model is a quantitative model, whereas a pre-objective model where it collects data to perhaps find angles, motion, forces, and more. So they focus on the kinematics and the kinetics of a player. The kinematics of a player is the movement of them, such as speed and acceleration. The kinetics would be the force that the player is generating in sports such as basketball. So a lot of analysts look at the kinetics and the kinematics frequently because basketball is a very fast and intense sport. As I've said, the numerical model is quantitative data where they look at the data and analyse it off the given stats instead of perhaps the technique they are using. So they would just analyse a player, for example, the speed of the basketball player, and then compare it to the speed of the other players in the team. Therefore, it shows that the player is good at what the player is good at, or maybe the improvements that they need to make, such as perhaps increasing their speed. In this presentation, we're going to use a numerical model to analyse vertical jumps of players, where we look at the kinetics, so the force that gets produced when making a jump, as well as the length of the jump. We would also look at the 20-metre sprint, analysing the speed, velocity and acceleration of the runners. When collecting the data, we would then compare perhaps a weakened player to a better player. We would compare it to the group average and then to an elite basketball player. This gives a real insight of what needs improvement for perhaps not just for an individual but for the whole team. There are ways that a numerical model can be produced, such as normative data. This is literature where we get different groups of data from different sources and we compare them. This is what we are doing for the 20-metre sprint and the vertical jump. Another way could be through websites such as Wikipedia, but it may not be as reliable as other statistics such as official websites. Stability is a very important feature when playing a sport. This is where you use your ability in order to stay in control for your balance and keep yourself stable when doing a movement. This could be in a sport such as basketball, where someone may be doing a turn when they are dribbling past a player. This may need to use their strength in their legs so that they can push off the floor and balance themselves and keep moving when they turn. They will be pushing away with one leg, so then in order to rebalance themselves, they will need to push on the other leg. Stability can determine your mass and your centre of mass, where the centre of mass is located during a movement. Firstly, your mass is the amount of material you have in your body. This doesn't include gravity, as this will increase your mass as the force will be pushing down on it as well. This will be known as your weight. Weight equals mass times gravity. Gravity will always go through your centre of mass, where it is called the line of gravity, and this is how the centre of mass involves gravity when finding out the weight of something. Therefore, the centre of mass is where the mass would be in that object, and that can fluctuate in different movements. It is where the body will have a balance. It is where the body will be balanced when at the centre of mass, as the mass will be equal in all directions. In the body, for males, your centre of mass will be around your stomach area, and the centre of mass of females will maybe around their thighs. Males generally have a larger mass than females. These two centre of masses are when the people are not moving. However, when doing a movement, the centre of mass will change depending on the movement. As you can see on the image on the right, there are three different types of shots in basketball. The shooter starts on the left with the centre of mass around his lower chest, when he is holding the ball above his head when doing a preparation shot. The one in the middle is him jumping, where he's about to shoot, and it is shown that his centre of mass has changed to his upper chest. And finally, the image on the right is showing a recovery position of the shooter, where his centre of mass has gone to a similar position as the preparation stage. Therefore, it is shown that different movements change the centre of mass, as well as someone perhaps holding a heavy object also may change it. So in basketball, the ball contributes to the centre of mass as well as the movement. When someone does move, there are reaction forces acting on it. This is a resultant force from the weight being pushed down from an object or a person. This is called the base of support. This is crucial for stability, as it keeps the balance between the weight and the ground. The base of support varies depending on the width of the people. If perhaps someone's legs are close together, their base of support is thinner than perhaps someone with a wider stand. Therefore, finding the right way to stand can affect your base of support and affect your stability. The location of your centre of mass also has an effect on the base of support as well. This is due to the line of gravity also going down through the base of support. For example, someone who is taller than another person will have a taller centre of mass, meaning they will need to stand a bit wider to create a larger centre of mass. As the more weight someone carries, the more stability they need. For example, in basketball, a player may be 6'11" and another may be 6'3". The person who's 6'11" will have a wider stance as his centre of mass is taller, and when he's perhaps running, he needs to widen his legs more to keep that balance as there is more of him to stabilise. When doing a movement in sport, you may need to decrease your stability in order to execute it. For example, they may need to have their arms and legs in a certain position when they are doing a movement, where perhaps a basketball player jumps in order to block a shot. They may bend their knees in order to create power, resulting in the body becoming less stable. However, they will need to reach the ball to make that block. Increasing stability involves things like, as I've said, involving the centre of mass and location on it, and it depends and it determines on your base of support size and whether you may need to change it so your base of support can largen and increase your stability. In order to require any type of movement, we need to put a force on it. The definition of a force is a push or pull that something or someone or something does in order to move something. Every time something moves or is getting faster, forces are acting on it. There are some types of forces, and one of them are internal forces. These are forces such as gravity, magnetic forces, spring forces, and electric forces. These normally act on an object, so most likely increase the speed or acceleration of the object. Then there are external forces. These are forces such as friction, resistance, and tension. These act against the object, which may cause the object to slow down or decelerate. Horizontal and vertical forces are quite self-explanatory, where horizontal forces are forces that act horizontally and vertical forces act vertically onto the object. These forces are equal in size and opposite in direction. For example, in the sports such as basketball, a player might nudge or push another player, then a force will be made acting on the player, causing them to fall over due to the high amount of force. Overall, there are five main effects that the force can have on an object. One of them is very simple, where something is moving, but then a force comes on it and makes it move from rest position. An example of this may be in a football match when someone takes a penalty, the ball is at rest, and then the player uses the force from their legs to move the ball into the net. Another effect is that a force is able to change the direction of an object. This could be in snooker when a player hits the ball with another ball, aiming it towards a corner, resulting in the ball changing direction. There is also forces that increase something's speed or acceleration, such as where the basketball starts to increase its speed when perhaps an opposition has a counter attack and the player needs to speed up to help defend. And then in contrast to acceleration, forces can create deceleration as well, when perhaps someone is running and they need to slow down when they are finished, resulting in a resistant force slowing the runner down. And finally, the last main effect force can have is that a force can cause a shape change on someone. For example, in boxing, when a player may have been punched in the face, their cheeks or the nose may change shape due to the force acted on it. Therefore, forces obviously have a crucial impact on everything that we do in our lives. And with these five main effects that forces have on them, they're the main causes of it. There are three types of motion that people do as well. The first one is linear motion. This motion is where someone moves in a straight direction, however the speed will be the same the whole time. This can be shown when a basketball player may be jogging down the court at the same speed in the same direction. Another type of motion is angular motion. This type of motion is where there is a fixed point and the body or the part of the body of someone will angle themselves around that fixed point, causing angular motion. This is mainly seen in gymnastics when a performer may try to angle themselves around a beam or do a flip. Finally, the last type of motion is general motion. This is where the motion uses linear and angular motion to perform this. This may be when someone is doing a 100-metre sprint and they are moving in the same direction, same speed, as well as their hips and their shoulders being at a fixed point of his angular motion when his arms and legs are moving around them 2 points, resulting in the performer using general motion. The motion is the main. This motion is the main one that people use in their day-to-day life. There is a force called eccentric force, and this is where the force does not go through the centre of gravity, and the force that occurs when someone may be rotating or spinning. This will be different to a direct force, as this is direct contact between two things and is pushed or pulled with that force. And in contrast, there is a resistant force that occurs called inertia. This is the tendency of any moving object which tries to stop it from moving. An example of this may be the tension of some string where it tries to keep unstretched when someone is stretching it. Another example of this in force may be the ground and between the ground and the feet of basketball players when they run on the court. Many players try and put dust on their shoes to reduce the force or the inertia and can run a bit more faster and more smooth. As a result, all these different force types of motion and forces, they are all used all the time and are extremely vital for our everyday life. A man called Sir Isaac Newton created 3 laws about motion, and these are the 3 laws that are looked at globally around loads of different types of motions, including sports such as basketball. Newton's first law was called the law of inertia. Newton stated that every object that does not move, does not have a force on it, is reluctant to change and will try to remain at rest. This is why it is the inertia law, as this is what keeps the object in the same state of motion. Therefore, this object only changes when the force is acted on it. So the only way it can move is if something pushes or pulls on it. For example, in a football match, there might be a penalty. The ball would be on the spot and staying in motion. When a player goes to kick it, he's generating the force in his legs and moves that ball into the net, as I've said earlier in the video. This is where Newton's first law is evidence, where there's no motion until the force from the player has moved the ball. Newton's second law is called the law of acceleration. Newton said that in this law that the acceleration is proportional to the force applied. Therefore, the high acceleration a runner may be doing, the larger force the runner will be applying. The direction of the movement also has an impact on the acceleration of something, because perhaps a javelin thrower throws a javelin at different angles and the direction someone else provides better acceleration, so it's suggesting that the direction has a big part to play as well. As well as Newton's first law, all the forces need to be taken into account to find acceleration of someone. For example, a basketball player may be running with the ball. The resistant force and the forward force have to be taken into account to see what acceleration is, also known as the net force. If the forward force is the same as the resistant force, then there would be no acceleration and the velocity would be constant. However, if the forward force is larger than the resistant force, then there would be acceleration, proving that the higher force leads to a high acceleration, and vice versa, with deceleration of the resistant force being larger than the forward force. Isaac Newton's third law is the law of reaction and action. This law states that whenever the forward force, there will always be a reactive force. An example of this would be when a player is perhaps blocking a shot in basketball and they use the force to jump up when the reaction force of the ground is created, and bounce back in order to allow the jump where the force is created, where the force is equal to the force created by the player. Therefore, this opposing forces match the one created. As a result, these 3 laws of motion are seen worldwide and are proven basically every time we move.